and gentlemen, today I am going to discuss something that has been stirring in my spirit. A truth that's not just a quote or a saying, but a principle that will transform the way you walk through life. God helps those who help themselves. And I want to start by talking about this one key truth. Faith is not a substitute for action. Now listen, I know that might make some people shift in their seats a little, because we've been taught, especially in church culture, that all we need is faith the size of a mustard seed. And that's true, but let me tell you something. God never intended for faith to make you passive. Faith is not about sitting back and saying, well, I'm just waiting on God. No, faith is about partnering with God. Faith means that even when I don't see how it's going to work out, I get up, I show up, and I do something because I believe God meets me at the place of my effort. Let's be real. Sometimes we use faith as a disguise for fear. I'm just waiting on confirmation. But what we're really doing is waiting for conditions to be perfect. We want a neon sign from heaven. We want 3 dreams and a prophetic word. But what if the confirmation you're waiting on is hidden in the first step you haven't taken yet? What if God is saying, I've already equipped you, I've already anointed you, but I'm not going to move until you do? There was a woman in the Bible, the woman with the issue of blood. You know the story. She didn't wait for Jesus to come knock on her door. She didn't sit back and hope he'd notice her from the crowd. That woman pushed. She pressed her way through people, through pain, through embarrassment, because she believed. And it was that belief coupled with action that released her healing. Don't miss this. Jesus didn't lay hands on her. She reached out and touched him. That's what I'm talking about when I say God helps those who help themselves. See, some of y'all are waiting for the door to open, but God is waiting for you to build the door, or knock on one, or walk down the hallway and try some doorknobs until something clicks. He's waiting on your yes, not your perfect plan, not your full understanding, just your yes. Your willingness to get uncomfortable, your willingness to try, your willingness to trust him enough to move even while you're still afraid. I remember a time in my life where I wanted change so bad, but I was stuck in cycles of procrastination. I prayed, Lord knows I prayed, but I wasn't doing anything with what I was praying for. And one day I heard it in my spirit so clearly. You keep asking me to bless something, you won't start. Whew, that hit me deep. Because the truth is, some of us aren't waiting on God. God is waiting on us. You've got gifts, you've got ideas, you've got dreams that keep you up at night, and still you hesitate. And I get it. Fear is real. Insecurity is loud. But so is your calling, so is your purpose. And let me tell you something, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. But even the called have to move. The called have to apply, create, show up, study, build, speak, work, because faith is not a substitute for action, it's the fuel behind it. You see, when you take that first step, even if it's shaky, it tells heaven you're serious. It says, God, I'm not just asking you to make a way, I'm getting ready for the way you're about to make. That's what real faith looks like. Not just belief, but movement. And some of you are sitting here today and you're saying, but Sarah, I don't know where to start. Start anyway. Start messy. Start unsure. Start small. Just start. Because the moment you begin, God begins aligning people, resources, and opportunities you couldn't have imagined. But he moves at the speed of your obedience. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you stopped waiting and started working your faith? What would shift in your relationships, your finances, your business, your ministry if you got out of that waiting room and started walking down the hall? Because sometimes God won't change your situation until you change your posture in it. You weren't made to sit still. You were made to move mountains. But even mountains need you to speak to them. God said, speak to the mountain, not wait and hope it disappears. Speak, act, move. So don't confuse waiting on God with doing nothing. Don't confuse stillness with stagnation. There's a difference between divine timing and personal procrastination, and the difference is in your willingness to act, even while you're believing. So when I say God helps those who help themselves, I'm not telling you to go at life alone. I'm saying partner with God. Put your hands to something. Put your heart in motion. Show up with your mustard seed and watch him move mountains. Now let me stay right there for a moment, because that takes us right into what I want to say next. Because when you show up with your mustard seed, when you take that first shaky step, when you decide you're not going to wait for a miracle, you're going to move like you believe one is coming, that's when effort becomes the language heaven understands. Hear me, effort is the language of the divine. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Faith is not passive. Faith is not silent. Faith makes noise. Faith gets up. Faith moves. And when faith moves, effort shows up right beside it. And baby, let me tell you, your effort doesn't go unnoticed. Your grind, your commitment, your discipline, heaven sees it. And not just that, heaven responds to it. God never promised us a life without struggle, but he did promise to be with us in the struggle. And sometimes we're praying for strength, but God is saying, show me what you're willing to carry first. God doesn't bless what you're dreaming about. He blesses what you're doing something about. That's how effort becomes sacred. That's how it becomes spiritual. Think about the loaves and the fish. Jesus fed 5,000, yes. But what did he start with? Somebody had to bring something. They didn't have enough, but they had something. And God didn't multiply nothing. He multiplied the effort. He multiplied what they were willing to offer, no matter how small. Some of y'all are sitting on 5 loaves and 2 fish in your life right now, talking about it's not enough. But God is saying, if you give me that effort, I'll show you overflow. Let me speak to the person who feels like what they're doing isn't big enough. Like your business is still small, your influence is still limited, your idea is still just an idea. Let me tell you, God is not waiting on perfection. He's looking for participation. He's looking for movement. He's looking for that person who's saying, I'm going to work this thing with everything I've got, even if nobody sees me, even if I have to do it alone, even if I fail a few times. See, we love the finished product. We love the platform, but God loves the process. God loves to see you show up with intention. That's what effort is. It's a demonstration of your faith. It's saying, I believe you, God, so I'm going to act like it. I'm going to write that book even if no one buys it yet. I'm going to launch that ministry even if only 2 people come. I'm going to get up early, stay up late, work hard, sow seeds, and I'm going to trust you with the harvest. Can I tell you something? Some of the greatest moves of God in my life didn't come after I had it all figured out. They came while I was in motion, while I was showing up, while I was working with my hands and trusting with my heart. Some doors didn't open until I knocked 3, 4, 5 times. Some prayers didn't get answered until I learned how to move my feet while I was still whispering the prayer. Effort is a sign that you're serious. It's a signal. And when God sees that signal, when he sees you doing the work, trusting him through the process, refusing to give up, he says, I can work with that. And I believe some of you are just one effort away from everything changing. One act of obedience, one step of courage, one email, one call, one risk, one plan. Don't sleep on your own effort. It is sacred ground. It is where heaven and earth meet. And can I be real with you? Sometimes that effort is messy. Sometimes it looks like crying in your car and still showing up to the meeting. Sometimes it's making dinner while your heart is broken. Sometimes it's sending out another resume after 20 no's. But that effort, that is worship. That effort says, God, I trust you with my tears. I trust you with my exhaustion. I trust you with my effort. You might not see the fruit right away, but baby, every time you show up, every time you keep going, every time you try again, heaven is stacking it up. He's collecting those seeds. And when the season is right, when your character is ready, when your roots are deep enough, you're going to see the harvest that effort was building all along. So yes, God helps those who help themselves, and not because he needs your help. No, he wants your heart to be in it. He wants to know that you're willing to partner with him, that you don't just believe he can, but you believe he will. And that belief is written all over your action. You're not just praying for breakthrough, you're preparing for it. You're not just asking for a blessing, you're building the capacity to hold it. That's what effort does. It gets the ground ready. It tells the storm, I'm still planting. It tells the delay, I'm still believing. It tells the doubt, I'm still moving, because I know my God sees my grind, honors my effort, and answers in his time. Now, while we're here, let me take it a little deeper, because if you've been listening closely, you can feel the rhythm of this thing. First, we had faith not being a substitute for action. Then we moved into effort, how God responds when you put your hands to the plow. And now, I want to talk about something that ties both of those together. Something that hits right where we live every single day. Responsibility. Yes, responsibility. And I'm not talking about paying bills or clocking in on time, though those are part of it. I'm talking about taking responsibility for your life in such a way that it becomes worship. I'm talking about seeing your decisions, your discipline, your daily choices as sacred. Because the truth is, how you handle your life is a reflection of what you believe about God. See, when you really believe that God has a plan for you, that he's put something inside you, that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, you start treating your life like it matters. You stop blaming other people for why you're stuck. You stop waiting for someone else to come save you, and you say, you know what, God has given me this life, these gifts, this opportunity, so I'm gonna own it. Owning your life doesn't mean you've got it all figured out. It means you're not hiding behind excuses anymore. It means you're not living in once they apologize, or once I get the promotion, or once the timing's perfect. No, baby, you step out of that victim mindset and into a victor's posture, because the moment you take responsibility, something shifts. Your energy changes, your mindset changes, your faith gets activated on another level, because now you're not just believing in God, you're behaving like he lives in you. Can I tell you something I had to learn the hard way? Responsibility is power. For a long time I thought it was pressure. I thought it was a burden. But when God started maturing me, he showed me, this is your power, Sarah. This is your opportunity to shift the atmosphere of your own life. Because when you take responsibility, you stop waiting for permission to grow. You stop waiting for someone else to see your worth. You see it yourself. You claim it yourself. And you start walking like you know who you are and whose you are. Some of us are praying for doors to open, but we're not prepared for what's on the other side. And God in his mercy won't open a door we're not ready to walk through. That's why responsibility is part of your preparation. It stretches your capacity. It teaches you stewardship. Because let's be real, why would God give you more if you're mismanaging what you already have? Let me break this down. If you're asking God for a platform, but you're not showing up for the people already in your life, why should he expand your influence? If you're praying for a relationship, but you're not working on your own healing, why would he bring someone into that chaos? If you want financial overflow, but you won't budget or tithe or sow, why would God pour blessing into a place that leaks? Responsibility says, I'm not just asking for more, I'm preparing for more. I'm making room. I'm honoring what I've been given. That's worship. That's reverence. That's saying, God, I recognize your hand in my life, and I'm going to take this seriously. And let me talk to my sisters and brothers who feel like they've messed up too much, like you dropped the ball and now you're disqualified. Hear me, God is not holding your past against you, but you've got to stop using it as a shield from stepping into your future. You're not what you did, you're what you decide to do now. Responsibility says, I can't change what happened, but I can choose what happens next. That's where freedom lives. That's where healing begins. That's where destiny starts to take shape, not in perfection, but in ownership. When you say, this is my life and I refuse to let fear, shame, or the opinions of others keep me from showing up in it fully, that's when heaven starts moving on your behalf. You see, when you take responsibility, God sees someone he can trust, someone he can build with, someone he can bless. Because you're no longer waiting for a handout. You're offering your hands. You're saying, God, here I am. Imperfect, yes. Still healing, yes. But I'm ready. I'm responsible, and I'm willing to work this soil, even if it's hard, even if it's lonely, even if nobody claps, because I know what you planted in me is worth it. That's when life starts aligning. That's when grace flows different, not because you're striving, but because you're stewarding. Because you've learned that showing up for yourself is one of the most spiritual things you can do. They're taking care of your mind, your body, your gifts, your relationships. It's not self-centered, it's God-centered. It's saying, I honor you, God, by honoring what you placed in my hands. And when you do that, when you walk in that kind of maturity, that kind of obedience, that kind of integrity, there's nothing the enemy can do with that, because now you're not just hoping for a breakthrough, you're living like you're ready for it. And when you start living like you're ready for it, like you've taken responsibility, like you're showing up with faith and effort, baby, that's when you start stepping into the territory of the miraculous. That's where I want to go next, because I believe with everything in me that miracles begin where persistence lives. Let me tell you something. There is power in not giving up. There is breakthrough buried inside your consistency. There are doors you haven't seen yet because they only open when you decide to keep walking, even when everything in you says to turn back. Persistence is the thread that ties your faith, your effort, and your responsibility together. It's the muscle that makes all the other principles strong. And can I be honest with you? Persistence is hard. Persistence doesn't feel good. We love the idea of breakthrough, but breakthrough doesn't come without a breaking. You want a miracle, that means something has to stretch, something has to bend, something has to feel like it's about to snap. But God says, don't stop here. Keep pressing, keep pushing, keep planting, because the miracle isn't just on the way. The miracle is watching to see if you'll stay the course. Persistence says, I'm not just a one-time prayer warrior. I'm not just strong on Sunday and struggling by Wednesday. I'm in this thing for the long haul. That's the kind of faith that shifts atmospheres. That's the kind of faith that gets heaven's attention. That's the kind of faith that built every testimony you've ever admired. Let me talk to the person who's been persistent and you're tired. You've been doing all the things. You've been praying, working, trying, showing up, and still it feels like nothing's moving. Listen to me. Just because it's not visible doesn't mean it's not working. Just because you can't see the fruit doesn't mean the seed isn't growing underground. You don't get to skip the root season just because you're ready for the harvest. Sometimes God hides progress to protect the process. Poof, let me say that again. Sometimes God will hide your progress so that you don't get ahead of your preparation. You're praying for the blessing, but God is saying, I need you to develop the persistence to carry what you're asking for. Because if you're not strong enough to sustain it, the very thing you prayed for will become the thing that breaks you. Persistence builds strength. Persistence builds endurance. It teaches you how to worship when you don't feel like it, how to pray when your heart is broken, how to keep showing up when nobody claps, when nobody notices, when nobody understands the price you're paying in the secret place. But guess what? God sees it, God honors it, and God rewards it. The enemy doesn't fear your start. He fears your follow through. Anybody can start a thing. Anybody can get excited in the beginning, but it's the persistent ones, the ones who keep going when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's quiet. Those are the ones that walk in power. Those are the ones that see the miraculous. Think about the woman who kept going back to the unjust judge in the parable. She didn't have status. She didn't have position. But she had persistence. She kept showing up until something shifted. And Jesus told that story to show us what consistent faith looks like. Not faith that flinches, not faith that fades, faith that fights. Persistence is faith in motion. It's effort in motion. It's responsibility in motion. And sometimes it's just you in motion, dragging your weary body into one more day, one more try, one more act of obedience. But don't you dare underestimate the power of one more. One more email could be the open door. One more prayer could be the shift. One more act of service could be the connection. One more workout, one more therapy session, one more apology, one more step. You never know when the oil is about to pour. You never know when the walls are about to fall. You never know when the water is about to part. So don't you dare stop walking. And let's be clear, persistence doesn't mean pretending. It doesn't mean you never feel discouraged. It means you don't let discouragement decide for you. It means you keep moving even if you're limping, even if you're crying, even if your voice shakes when you speak. You show up anyway. You trust God anyway. You keep believing even when your feelings don't line up with your faith. That kind of persistence, that's where miracles are born. That's where healing flows. That's where things start aligning, not because you forced them, but because you refused to quit, because you stayed rooted, because you said, God, I don't understand it right now, but I trust you with this. And that trust, that persistence, it turns the soil for the miracle. So if you've been walking and you're weary, keep walking. If you've been believing and you're tired, keep believing. If you've been sowing and it feels dry, keep sowing, because God sees you. God hears you, and the miracle you've been waiting for is already on its way. The only question is, will you still be standing when it arrives? Because family, if you've come this far through the faith that moved you into action, through the effort that became your offering, through the responsibility that matured your spirit, through the persistence that refined your soul, then you're right on the edge of something sacred. And that brings me into this final piece, this final heartbeat of what God gave me to share with you today. Favor flows where preparation has been made. I need you to hear me on this. I need you to not just hear it, but feel it. Because some of us are asking God for favor in places we haven't prepared to handle. We're asking for overflow with no container to hold it. We want acceleration, but we've not built the foundation that can carry that speed. We're praying for something that we don't have room for. God is not trying to overwhelm you. He's trying to position you. Favor is not random. Favor is not luck. Favor is heaven's recognition of alignment. It flows in the places where you've made room for it. And what is preparation? Preparation is faith in action before the breakthrough arrives. I think about Noah. He built the ark before it started raining. When he didn't wait until the clouds formed, he didn't say, let me see some thunder first. He moved in faith. He prepared for what God promised before there was any sign it was coming. And that preparation is what saved his family. That preparation is what made him trustworthy. Some of you are asking God to open the door, and God is saying, show me the hallway you're willing to walk through first. Show me that you've prepared your character. Show me that you've built systems for the blessing. Show me that you've healed so you don't sabotage what I send. That's where favor lives. It lives in the house you've been building in private. You see, preparation is not always glamorous. It's often quiet. It's the late nights of planning, the early mornings of discipline, the seasons where you're pruning and fasting and letting go of old versions of yourself. It's the behind the scenes work nobody sees but God. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with favor finding you in the shadows before it ever puts a spotlight on you. Can I speak to the dreamer in you, the builder in you, the writer, the preacher, the leader, the mother, the visionary in you? Don't get discouraged in the preparation season. Don't confuse the silence with absence. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean God's not moving. He's just making sure your roots can hold the weight of what's coming. Because when favor shows up, it doesn't come to babysit. Favor comes to elevate. And if you're not ready, what should be a blessing will feel like a burden. That's why preparation matters. Because when the phone call comes, you need to have something to say. When the opportunity knocks, you need to be dressed and ready to walk through the door. When the platform is offered, your soul needs to be anchored enough not to lose yourself in it. Favor flows where there's order, where there's maturity, where there's stewardship. You've heard me say before, you don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your preparation. So if you've been preparing in the dark, if you've been showing up with no applause, if you've been reading, stretching, healing, building up, keep going. Because favor is looking for people who are ready. Favor is drawn to obedience. Favor responds to preparation. And let me remind you, this ain't about perfection. It's about posture. It's not about having every detail in place. It's about being in position. When God sees your faith, your effort, your consistency, your heart, and your readiness, He says, I can trust you with this next thing. I remember a time in my life when I thought God had forgotten me. I had been grinding, praying, trying, and I didn't see any fruit. But what I didn't realize was, while I thought I was waiting on God, God was waiting on me to release old mindsets, waiting on me to let go of people I was never supposed to carry, waiting on me to believe that I was actually worthy of the thing I was praying for. That's what preparation does. It purifies your expectation. It removes the limits. It makes you stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces God already told you He was going to expand. And then when that favor comes, it fits. It doesn't feel like a fluke. It doesn't feel like too much. It feels like the moment you've been becoming for. So don't just hope for favor, prepare for it. Don't just dream about the door, build the frame. Don't just ask for increase, create the container. Because when it comes, and it will come, it'll pour out just like he promised. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And when it hits your life, I want you to be able to say, I was ready.